Standing in the heart of Dubai at night, you are witnessing a skyline unlike anything else on the planet. Massive structures of steel and glass pierce the clouds, shimmering like giant diamonds under the glow of millions of LEDs. It is called the City of the Future, a testament to absolute human power over a harsh, unforgiving desert. But if you watch closely enough, for long enough, you'll notice a disturbing pattern beginning to repeat itself. Thick plumes of black smoke billowing from iconic towers, charred streaks stretching across dozens of floors, and the scream of sirens shattering the quiet luxury of the elite. At first, this looks like a series of unfortunate accidents, a small price to pay for lightning-fast development. But what most people don't realize is that these fires aren't just failures of the system, they are a fundamental characteristic of it. There is a hidden truth buried beneath the glamorous facade, a deep crack in the logic of Dubai's construction that nobody wants to explain. Perhaps because the answer would shake the very foundations of this city. Why does a nation with unlimited resources and the world's most advanced technology consistently allow its proudest symbols to go up in flames? This isn't just a story about building materials or safety codes. This is a war between speed and survival, between the image of progress and the brutal reality hidden behind the billboards. We are always told about the miracle of Dubai, but we are never told about the thermal trap that is currently under an information blockade. What you are about to see might change the way you look at these architectural wonders forever. Is this a fixable technical glitch or a dangerous compromise that was calculated from the very beginning? And more importantly, if the trajectory remains the same, is Dubai building a permanent future? Or is it simply erecting giant candles waiting to be lit? To understand why these skyscrapers are so prone to ignition, we have to look back at the moment it all started, when the data began telling a story completely different from the official statements. Approximately 70% of Dubai's high-rises were built during a gold rush era where aesthetics outweighed everything else. Between the years 2000 and 2015, the city's face changed at a pace the human eye could barely track. But in that rush, one specific material was used on thousands of projects: aluminum composite panels, or ACPs. The problem lies in the core. The plastic filler inside these panels is highly flammable. When a small fire starts on a balcony or from a faulty socket, this cladding doesn't protect the building. It acts as a fuel line, carrying the fire hundreds of feet upward in a matter of minutes. Reports indicate that over 30,000 buildings in the UAE utilize this flammable cladding. It is a staggering figure, a ticking time bomb scattered across the urban landscape. International experts have been sounding the alarm for years, but the reality is that replacing the skin of thousands of towers is an economic impossibility. It would cost billions of dollars, and more significantly, it would be a formal admission of a systemic failure. So, instead of facing the truth, the choice was made to adapt in silence. This is where the story gets uncomfortable, because behind the dry data of materials lies a shift in the behavior and psychology of an entire administration. They are betting on damage control rather than root cause resolution, and every time a new tower ignites, we see the same script: extinguish the fire quickly, suppress the narrative, and keep building as if nothing happened. But the cracks in that confidence are starting to show. The silence surrounding these fires isn't just a PR strategy, it's a structural necessity for the city's survival. To understand the why, you have to look at the math that governs the desert. In 2012, the Tamwil Tower in Jumeirah Lakes Towers was engulfed in flames. The cause? A single discarded cigarette butt. It took less than 20 minutes for the fire to climb 34 stories. This is the subtle crack that reveals the systemic flaw. Most people see a skyscraper as a solid monolith, but Dubai's towers are wrapped in what is essentially solid gasoline. The ACP panels, specifically those with a polyethylene core, have a heat release rate similar to that of a tank of fuel. When ignited, they don't just burn, they melt and drip, carrying the fire downward while the chimney effect sucks the flames upward. It is a dual-directional inferno. To be fair, the UAE updated its Fire and Life Safety Code in 2013 and again in 2017, mandating non-combustible minerals in the core of these panels. But here is where the story breaks. These laws are not retroactive for the thousands of buildings already standing. This creates a terrifying two-tier reality. On one side of the street, you have a modern tower built to global standards. On the other, a legacy tower that is a vertical hazard. Data suggests that replacing the cladding on a single 50-story tower can cost upwards of $100 million. Multiply that by hundreds of buildings and you aren't looking at a renovation project. You're looking at a financial black hole that could swallow the real estate market whole. Behind closed doors, insurance companies are the ones feeling the heat. Premiums for older Dubai towers have reportedly surged by 300 to 500% in some sectors, and many international firms are quietly refusing to provide coverage altogether. If a building cannot be insured, it cannot be sold. If it cannot be sold, the asset value evaporates. This is the hidden economic tension. The authorities are trapped in a decision trap. If they force every owner to replace the cladding immediately, they trigger a massive real estate crash and admit the miracle was flawed. If they do nothing, the fires continue, and the global brand of Dubai as a safe haven for the elite begins to burn. Privately, residents tell stories of fire drills that feel more like dress rehearsals for a disaster they know is coming. There is a palpable sense of hesitation when a new resident signs a lease in an older district. They look at the sleek silver exterior and wonder, is this a wall or is it a fuse? The system is transforming from one of pure growth to one of desperate containment. And this is the part nobody talks about. The city is effectively holding its breath, hoping that the next spark doesn't happen on a windy night when the advanced fire response teams, as elite as they are, simply cannot keep up with the physics of a melting building. The question isn't whether another fire will happen. The data proves it will. The real question is, how long can the image of the future survive the reality of its construction? But the physical fire is only the surface level of this crisis. Something much deeper is shifting within the corridors of power and the boardrooms of Dubai's massive developers. This is where we enter the system-level insight. To maintain the illusion of a flawless metropolis, the city has developed an almost supernatural efficiency in hiding the scars of these events. If you visit a building 6 months after a major fire, you will often find no trace of the blackened skeleton that dominated the news for a few hours. The damaged panels are stripped and replaced with breathtaking speed, often within weeks, as if the city is trying to gaslight its own residents into forgetting what they saw. This leads us to a disturbing behavioral shift. We are seeing the emergence of visual security, a world where looking safe is prioritized over being safe. Data from global construction audits suggests that even after the 2017 regulations, the supply chain for building materials remains a labyrinth of middlemen and cost-cutting measures. While the top-tier developers might follow the letter of the law, the secondary and tertiary layers of the city's expansion are often caught in the race to the bottom. In some cases, investigations have found that fire-rated panels were only used on the lower, more visible floors, while the cheaper, flammable alternatives were tucked away at heights where inspectors rarely venture. Something doesn't add up, a structural engineer whispered during an anonymous interview. If the technology exists to stop this and the money is available, why does the pattern persist? The answer is an uncomfortable implication of the Dubai model. The city is built on a burn and rebuild logic. The cost of a fire every 2 years is actually lower than the cost of a total systemic overhaul. It is a cold mathematical trade-off where human risk is weighed against the velocity of capital. Most people miss this, but the escalation isn't just about the buildings anymore, it's about the climate. As global temperatures rise, the ambient heat in the desert is reaching record levels. We are now seeing cases where the external surface of these towers reaches 70 degrees Celsius, 158 degrees Fahrenheit, in the summer sun. This heat doesn't just make the building hot, it preheats the flammable core of the cladding, bringing it closer to its flashpoint before a spark even exists. The desert itself is becoming an accelerant. So, we are forced into the ultimate decision trap. If Dubai pauses to fix its past, it loses the momentum that defines its future. If it continues to ignore the thousands of legacy fuses lining its streets, it risks a catastrophe that even the most sophisticated PR machine cannot spin. Is this a city reaching its peak, or is it a system that has become too vertical and too complex to ever truly be safe? Privately, the elites are already moving. There is a quiet migration occurring, a shift from the older high-risk towers to newer low-rise luxury villas. They are selling the view to the next wave of unsuspecting investors while they move their own families closer to the ground. They see what others don't, that the higher you climb in this city, the thinner the line becomes between a luxury penthouse and a gilded cage. The escalation has now reached a point of no return, moving from a localized construction flaw to a full-scale external shock. In the last 24 months, the global insurance industry has begun to treat Dubai's cladding crisis not as a series of accidents, but as a predictable liability. This is the moment the story shifts from strange to dangerous. We are witnessing the birth of a grey market for high-rise real estate. On paper, these apartments are worth millions. In reality, they are becoming unbankable. When a bank refuses to issue a mortgage because a building is wrapped in pre-2013 ACP panels, the liquidity of the entire district vanishes overnight. This isn't just a fire risk anymore, it's a wealth fire. But here is where it gets truly uncomfortable. To maintain the City of Gold reputation, a silent, urgent directive has moved through the construction sector. They are introducing active suppression technologies, massive, multi-million-dollar drone fleets equipped with fire-extinguishing thermites and high-pressure foam designed to intercept flames before they can climb the first 10 floors. It is a marvel of engineering, yet it highlights the ultimate irony. Dubai is spending billions to build a high-tech cure because it is too expensive to fix the disease. They are militarizing their fire response to protect a fundamental architectural mistake. To be fair, some urban planners argue that this is simply the cost of innovation. They claim that every great city, London in 1666, Chicago in 1871, had to burn before it could truly become modern. But those cities burned once and learned. Dubai is stuck in a loop. Data from the most recent incidents shows that despite the 2017 codes, the human factor remains the weakest link. In a city where 90% of the population are expatriates, there is a constant churn of residents who have never been trained in high-rise fire protocols. They move into a smart building, but bring with them old habits, unaware that a single faulty e-bike charger on a 60th floor balcony can trigger a vertical inferno that no drone can stop in time. The stakes are being raised by an external force no one can control, the Global Sustainability Scorecard. As the world pivots toward ESG, environmental, social, and governance standards, Dubai's burning towers are becoming a massive carbon liability. A single skyscraper fire releases more toxins and CO2 into the atmosphere than a small town does in a year. The system-level insight is finally becoming clear. The city is no longer just fighting fire, it is fighting for its seat at the table of the future. We are now at the climax of the logic. If the authorities admit the scale of the danger, they risk an exodus of the very capital that built the city. If they continue to suppress the narrative, they risk a black swan event, a fire so large, so public, and so lethal that no amount of rapid repair or PR can hide the charred remains. This is the decision trap in its purest form. They are holding a wolf by the ears. They don't like it, but they don't dare let it go. Zooming out from the flickering sirens and the charred remains, we have to confront the uncomfortable machinery of the Dubai model. This is the system-level insight. The city has entered a state of permanent crisis management. We aren't just looking at a failure of materials. We are looking at a complexity trap. When a system grows this fast, with this much vertical density, it loses the ability to correct its past mistakes without destroying its present. Consider the decision trap currently paralyzing the stakeholders. If a developer admits a building is unsafe, the property value drops by 40% to 60% instantly. If they stay silent and a fire occurs, the repair is covered by insurance and the brand is protected by a media blackout. From a cold, profit-driven perspective, it is actually more logical to let a building burn than to admit it is a fire trap. This is the part nobody talks about. The economic incentive for safety is currently inverted. Most people miss the deeper mechanic at play here, the transience effect. Because so much of the city is built for and by people who do not plan to stay for generations, there is a lack of long-term ownership. The architect, the contractor, and the original investor are often gone by the time the first spark ignites. The liability is passed like a hot potato until it lands in the hands of a frantic resident or a secondary buyer who was sold a dream that is literally skin deep. Is this a collapse or a transformation? To be fair, some argue that Dubai is simply the world's largest laboratory. They are inventing the future of firefighting because they accidentally built the future of fire. They are developing intelligent facades that can detect heat and deploy fire-retardant gas before a flame even appears. But would you still trust this system? Is a city truly smart if it requires a military-grade response to survive a single cigarette butt? Something doesn't add up when the world's tallest skyline is also its most vulnerable. Are they early to a new way of living that eventually fixes its own flaws? Or are they fundamentally wrong about how much risk a human being should live under? As we look at the shimmering towers of the marina or the Burj Khalifa district, we have to ask, are we looking at the pinnacle of human achievement or the world's most expensive collection of tinder? The cracks are no longer just in the cladding, they are in the narrative itself. And as the desert heat continues to rise, the window for a quiet solution is closing. The next time you see a headline about a small fire in a Dubai luxury thimble, remember, you aren't seeing an accident. You are seeing the system working exactly as it was designed, sacrificing the few to maintain the illusion of the many. Dubai's skyscrapers are more than just buildings. They are a grand experiment in human ambition. But as we've seen, that ambition comes with a hidden, flammable cost. Now that you've seen behind the facade, the choice is yours. Is this the price of progress you're willing to accept, or is it a warning for the rest of the world's growing megacities? So which is it? Is Dubai a pioneer of the future, or a dangerous warning of what happens when we build too fast to look back? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are they early or are they wrong? If you found this insight valuable, stay tuned for our next investigation where we look at the ghost cities that were built to be the next Dubai but never woke up.